After all these months, I'm back, sort of. It's been really busy at work recently, and I've just been really drained. I was surprised at how much effort it takes to write a YouTube video script. I just think, oh, I'll just do it stream of consciousness. It'll be super. It's going to be just really natural. I was going to say supernatural. That wouldn't work at all. Just really natural. Just going to be my regular old voice. But no, there's a lot of editing required. Oh, I guess probably should have seen that coming. So in the description of the last video, I promised a video on the Saw movies, which I still really want to do, but I somehow deleted the script for it when it was almost done. So that sucks. But in the meantime, here's a really short video, a little nugget of a script I had about White Pepper by Ween. I hope that's okay. Okay, so White Pepper is the best Ween album. For those who aren't familiar with Ween and their fandom, that's a pretty unpopular opinion. For those who are, here's a quick little justification that I had to get off my chest. White Pepper is an anomaly in Ween's discography. Of course, Ween's discography consists almost entirely of anomalies, that's a big part of why they're so amazing, but White Pepper occupies a particularly awkward spot. It's easy to view it as a kind of warm-up for Quebec a little later, one of Ween's many masterpieces. And in a lot of ways, on paper, Quebec is a better album. It features a ton of moments of legitimate emotional weight that you would never see coming if you're only familiar with Ween's earlier material, but it also features plenty of moments that recall the crass weirdness of that earlier material. It really should be the perfect meld between mature, emotional Ween and super weird comedic Ween. But for whatever reason, I like White Pepper more. It's an anomaly in that it's their most straightforward album, probably their most accessible, but seemingly the least representative of them as personalities. It's true that you're not going to get the width of personality representation that you would get in a masterful hodgepodge like Quebec or the subtle emotional f***upness of the Mollusk. What you do get is a very specific picture, which is super weird for a band as crazy diverse as Ween. That picture, at least initially, is fear of being swallowed by the very over-the-top personas that Ween have created for themselves. In many ways, White Pepper seems like a form of homemade therapy for Dean and Jean, and what we get is a simple, straightforward, and wonderful album that's just one of the most comforting things I've ever heard. The entire album is framed by the opening track, Exactly Where I'm At. This is basically a song about cutting someone off out of apathy, which is, different than Ween usually handles breakup songs. But to me, it's clear that this is not only a more realistic view of how many relationships end, it's directly addressing Ween's fan base, hence what I consider to be the most cutting line in Ween's discography. I'm all staged, it's all an act, I'm really scared that I may fall back on the abstract. Jean and Dean were, at one point in their lives, really invested in the whole Brown thing, what with the immature humor and catchy punk songwriting and lo-fi production and goofy voices, but how does it feel when the ideas and art you came up with years ago just won't leave you alone, when you have to perform them every night and answer interview questions about them? That's the weird thing about having a legacy, it's what every creative type wants, but if you are a creative type, you're more than likely going to want to tinker with things and leave them in a perpetual state of being ready to be improved. You're your own harshest critic after all. If you have a bunch of stuff that's set in stone that you're constantly reminded of, no matter how proud you are of it, you're gonna realize eventually that there's a bunch of things you wish you had done differently. Ween goes on throughout the album to demonstrate that the music they're feeling at this point in time is not much like their earlier material. It's a lot mellower, more euphoric, less goofy, more low-key. They're going to pursue the direction that they want because that's their need as artists. And that confidence in that anomaly among anomalies is what really makes White Pepper such an uplifting album to me. Ween also goes on to show that even though they're not feeling certain aspects of their reputation at this point in time, there's still definitely stuff that they want to keep around, most notably their genre hopping. Flutes of Chi is a parody of a very general Eastern music palette, but the uplifting nonsense of the lyrics and the blissful arrangement shows that Ween's not so much interested in using that palette for comedy or mockery, but because it feels right for that particular song. This is an album about going with the flow, regardless of how it will be perceived. Even If You Don't has deeply vulnerable and likely personal lyrics about caring for someone who's not easy to live with. It's also got a Paul McCartney-style melody that just reeks of comforting familiarity. There's a lot of comfort in artists that Ween are fans of on this album, like the Jimmy Buffett riff on Bananas and Blow, or the Motorhead riff on Stroker Ace, or Steely Dan riff on Pandyfackler. Even Back to Basin can be compared to Pink Floyd, except, like, better. The Grove is a grunge song, which makes sense given how much punk was an influence on Ween, and this is the best part. The last 3 songs, Stay Forever, Falling Out, and She's Your Baby, are country songs. They already made an entire album of country songs, and it's one of their least popular, so putting them to the surface of a grand finale is not only kind of a trolling move, but also reinforces that Ween is gonna do, and through this album's runtime have done, whatever they want to do. And that's basically White Pepper, an album about freedom and confidence. I find it really interesting that Ween were at a time and a place when throwing it all at the wall would be completely expected, and they still managed to pull off a surprise. And that, I think, is the truly brilliant thing about White Pepper. Just really cool. And that's it. If only the Animal Crossing video was this short.